And welcome to Hero Power. This is episode 96, and I am your host, Avantes, and as always, I am joined by my awesome co-hosts, Zerotio.
I'm so proud of you. We had to do this on YouTube, and you got the theme music right.
Yeah, well, every once in a while, what's the old saying? Sun shines on a... Oh, anyway, what's up, Versika?
I'm just surprised this is working. Like, I'm watching this House of Cards, and I'm going, please don't fall, please don't fall, please don't fall.
Right? Yeah.
Clutch.
Well, hey, when in doubt, fall back to plan B, right, guys?
Hey, and every once in a while, Zerotio has a good idea.
Every once in a while. Don't tell anybody else.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, if you are joining us live, then you'll realize we are rocking the YouTube live tonight because of the Twitch outage. Keeping an eye on that as well, which I thought was interesting because I don't remember a time Twitch has ever been this dead.
No, and this isn't a slow Twitch. This isn't a Twitch stream's not working. You cannot get to the main page. It is
update 60 seconds ago. Engineering teams are working hard to resolve site-wide outages.
And they acknowledged the outage about 3 hours ago.
Yeah. So, Welcome to Hero Power on YouTube. We are excited to have a plan B, and we've got a great show planned for you tonight. But before we get into any of that, which one of you wants to tell us about our good friends over at Viforce?
I'll do. Yeah. Well, we guys, just a heads up, our normal pre-show planning didn't happen because we were trying to get this over on YouTube. So if we seem a little discombobulated, we are. So just bear with us.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. All right, guys. So we've actually been talking about Viforce for quite some time now. And I feel like one of the computers that we don't talk about enough is Viforce's Element computer. And the Element is a great introduction into video gaming PCs. If you've never owned a video gaming PC before, this is actually a great starter PC for that. And the part that kind of makes us the proudest of it is that it was actually inspired by us.
Mm-hmm.
So when you purchase the Element, you're actually purchasing a computer made by Viforce that kind of had the Hearthstone player in mind. So go to their site, viforcegaming.com, go to their products page. The Element is the first computer listed. You'll be able to see all of its stats and internals and what games it can play, as well as its price point on the top left-hand side of the page. And we'll talk more about that as we move into the video portion of our show.
All right. So we do have an awesome email this week.
Well, that depends on who you are.
So, email states, "Hey guys, I really enjoyed last week's show. I also appreciate the packs I got by listening to Versika's Choose a Champion.
You're welcome.
Even though my girlfriend says he's cheating because he picks 2 winners.
Hedge my bets.
I agree.
I told her that's better than most lines in Vegas, but she just didn't buy it. Speaking of which, she was watching the show with me and said there's absolutely no way Versika could have known Alex Straza was coming down because he top-decked it. I tried to explain to her about playing to your outs, but she thinks it was BS. Is there any way Versika could take us through his line of thinking real quick? I don't mean through the whole game, but just that one play. I think you guys do a great job. I wish more people would listen. For what it's worth, I go to you guys first on most things Hearthstone, and I think that if Versika and Avanti's got Legend, there would be more people take you seriously. Any chance we get that win percentage anytime soon? Dave K." So Dave, thank you for your email. Maybe a chance on getting Legend if I can ever find the time to do it.
And that's me too.
But
Okay.
Time.
I need to mention something here. Okay, Dave. I got one job, okay? My job on this show is to be the expert, the Legend player. Don't take that away from me. If they get Legend, then I'm not needed anymore. So they're good where they're at. On a serious note, we do try to cover the broad spectrum. We're not here just to try to teach people to get to Legend. We're here to teach people how to get through the ladder. And each of us usually find a home in different sections of the ladder, and we can speak on them respectively. And I think that really helps us help people go through, getting your card back every month and possibly getting up to 15 and getting to 10 and then 5 and then Legend, because we span the entire spectrum of the ladder, and we enjoy that. And our listeners so far have showed us their appreciation. Now, I'd love 1 month if we can give a good push for Avantes and Versika to get up there, and I think they're capable. But I think we do a good job where we're at, and thank you so much for listening and having faith in us.
Yeah. All right, so I'll address the last part of the email after Versika talks about his line of thinking on that play with Alex Straza last week.
Okay, so, which, once again, I didn't even see this email until like 30 minutes before the show started, so it kind of caught me off guard. If I remember right, turn 4, I determined that our player was someone who wanted to win by board presence. Turn 6, I had determined that our player is normally an aggro player, probably Zulok. So I was looking for ways that he would close out the game, because I didn't think he was going to close out like a traditional Jade Druid. So going into turn 8, I figured that of the closers that he would use, I narrowed it down to really 4.5 choices. So the half choice was Deathwing. The reason that Deathwing is a half choice is because it takes a lot of skill and a lot of forward thinking to use Deathwing effectively, which you usually find more in control players who are used to playing at the end of the game. I'd already determined that this player was normally an aggro player, so Deathwing wasn't really an option. Also, sort of at the tail end of that is Arcane Giant, which, while cheap because of all the Druid spells, didn't really offer much of a bang for your buck, because it didn't really do anything once it came in, and it didn't do anything on the board other than being 8/8 body. So I'd pretty much narrowed it down to Lich King, Alex Straza, or Ysera. So if you'll notice, if you go back in the clip, in our hand we already had the Black Knight, so Lich King was taken care of. If it was Lich King, which is kind of the flavor of the month, but once again, Lich King is more reactive and more of a control player style of card. Same with Ysera. Both of them have big bodies. You get them on the board, they give you cards that affect the board once again, but once more a control or mid-range player, someone that is used to playing the end game. I'd already determined that this player was somebody who liked to press the advantage and was a little more aggressive. So Alex Straza seemed like the fit, because when you think about it, Alex Straza is really an 8/8 body and a 15-point fireball for 9 mana. So it really, if you're going to be an aggro player that's playing in the late game, Alex Straza fits right into your wheelhouse. That's why I'd gotten to the Alex Straza place. So I hope that answered your question, and I hope that wasn't too rambly. My brain moves in like 20 different directions at once, so sometimes I get a little crazy.
And I want to mention to Dave that this line of thought that Versika has happens over the course of one turn, and you wonder why we rope every game. No, seriously though, Versika has so much detailed, minute thought. When we went down to DreamHack Atlanta, we talked at length about what goes through his mind and his brain and his thought process per turn on plays, and it's amazing the amount of detail that goes into his thought. That I just pretty much look at what I'm used to playing and what outs I expect, and if they're playing off meta, I tend to get caught off guard. And Versika just does not. He looks at the entire catalog of cards in the Hearthstone collection for every play, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. That's, he very analytical is for Sika, and that's why we bring him on week to week. So
That's my job.
yeah,
I have one job.
That's right.
It's my job.
You're the braids.
And a head shake.
and the head shake. All right, guys. So this week we have no new iTunes reviews, so we're going to jump right into the news. This week everybody finally got a chance to see the final boss in the Ice Crown Citadel solo adventure. And let's start with Zerotio. How have you done with facing the Lich King?
So I started him on Thursday when he launched. I started out with Mage, and obviously, if you haven't done the adventure yet, and you get up to the Lich King, if you defeat him, you get a card pack. But if you defeat him with all 9 classes, you get the Arthas portrait. My goal was to try to get about halfway done Thursday to try to knock it all out Friday, so I can give a good push on the ladder over the weekend. And at first I had a tournament scheduled for this past Saturday, but it got postponed. So fortunately, I was able to have time to try to get all this done. But I knocked it out with Mage. It took me a long time. I think it took me like about 2 hours to finally get it the first time. And by the end of the night, I had finished it with 4 classes. And then by the end of Friday evening, just before Big Brother, fortunately, I was able to. Well, no, the Big Brother was for Legend. Just before one of my other shows that was on Friday, I was able to knock it out and get all 9 classes done. I pride myself on doing these without the need of net decking. I've always been able to do the heroic modes in the past. Only had neck deck a couple times. I was able to do 6 of the 9 classes without net decking. I needed help from the internet for Warrior, Paladin, and Hunter. And pretty much what I did is I looked up a deck that was proven, used it, but I didn't go by like a guide or anything. Unfortunately, most of those decks were self-explanatory and had a way to figure it out. So it was really neat. I really liked it, but I was able to get my Arthur's portrait, and I felt very satisfied with the level of difficulty. What about you guys, Rasika?
Honestly, I haven't even played it yet.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. Well, number one, we're entering the busy season, so I actually didn't get a weekend this weekend.
Gotcha.
I worked on Saturday and spent Sunday just trying to rest from Saturday and from the week that I'd had previous. But with it just being a portrait, it doesn't really, because I already have a portrait for Paladin, it doesn't really, I guess, make it to the top of my list. I was much more interested in figuring out the Druid counter. So I was actually on my EU account playing Mage, and trying to work on the anti-Jade Druid Mage.
Okay, cool.
So,
well, we were talking about Tom, and I've still not finished the second wing of Ice Crown Citadel.
Okay.
I'm still on Putricide, so
Gotcha.
I will try to get there soon.
Well, I mean, and that's the glory of this is from what I've been told or what I've been able to read. There's not like a certain window of time you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in the solo adventures forever.
yeah.
And it's free basically, so you don't have to pay anything extra for it or anything. I think it's really neat. I like that they offer this because you may not have the collection or the skill to do these right now, but you can always do them later when you get better at the game or get more collection or have time to do it. I'm really excited because I burned for it because I'm a big Paladin player. It's my favorite class.
Mm-hmm.
And Arthas is absolutely gorgeous. It is the best portrait art, in my opinion, so far. He shimmers in every time you summon one of your dudes. They shimmer in the Silverhand recruits. It's just beautiful. The artwork's so clean and crisp. The animation is nice and pretty. I love it.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, hopefully I can tell you more about it next week. I will try to. Although I was gonna say I'll try to get it done this weekend, but I'm playing in the 1600 Dust Open this weekend.
Oh, you're playing in the 1600 Dust Open?
Oh, you knew I was playing.
I'm playing in the 1600 Dust Open as well.
I am not. I will be working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Disappointment in your voice there. I do want to talk about, speaking of playing over the weekend, I made a major accomplishment this weekend. I decided to sit down and actually make a legend push because I was sitting around rank 8 and made it up to 5 pretty quickly. And I was like, I think I might be able to do this. So I sat down and over the weekend grinded out legend and got legend Sunday evening, which is my second time getting legend. I usually don't have the time to make the big push. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to bring up a discussion that is going around about the meta right now, is that it's so oppressive with Druid and people are really unhappy with Druid. They're calling for nerfs or calling for meta changes. I know my experience, and I want to talk on it a little bit. Do you guys have any opinions on where the state of the meta is now, or specifically Druid?
Well, depending on who you ask, Druid, most people will tell you Druid is oppressive right now. And I think it depends on where you are in the ladder. I was reading a comment thread on, a little earlier while I was at dinner, and somebody said, just coming back to Hearthstone, what's the best deck to play? And everybody was saying, Druid, 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 Druid. And the guy was like, well, I went from 20 to 15 and only saw one Druid. And the reply to that was, well, that's because all the other Druids in the world are already legendary.
Yeah. So I was in the same boat. I didn't see a lot of legends like from 15 to 10, and then really, not to say legends. I didn't see a lot of Druids from 15 to 10. And once I got into like 8, they started to come out the woodwork, which I assumed I was just running up the ladder with the cavalcade of Druids. So I can understand where that stance comes from. Do you have any opinion on the matter, Rasika?
Well, when I first started building my 2 anti-Jade Druid decks, Druids were everywhere. And then it's like once I started trying to finesse and kind of nail them down, they disappeared. So I've actually not gotten to play a Druid in almost 5-6 days now. It's a little disappointing.
Well, I started my climb. I kind of did a combination of a few different decks to get up to 8. But once I hit 8, I started my climb using a Savit's Control Mage. And I did have some trouble with Druid and a few other classes. And I started teching my deck, customizing it for my playstyle. I took out the valets, which were more spot removal, and put in volcanic potions. We're going to be playing a deck tonight, so we'll talk more about it here shortly. But I teched it out for what I was seeing on the ladder. And I ended up sitting around a 65, 67% win rate by the time I got up to Legend. And a third of my games were against Druid. Now, normally this is where I say Druid's oppressive. I parrot what everybody's saying on Reddit and all over the internet that Druid needs to be nerfed. I didn't have the experience everybody else did. Now, maybe because I took the time to gear my deck towards Druid, not just Jade Druid, but it does well against Jade Druid, Aggro Druid, and even Malygos Druid. Now, the big Druid it has a little trouble with, especially ones that don't rely on Jades. It has a little trouble with, but my total games against Druid was 24 games, and my win rate was 21-3. So Druid's beatable. It just needs to be figured out. There was a time, even after the nerf, that Pirate Warrior was all over the ladder. Way back in the day, aggro hunter, face hunter was a big thing. People figured out the meta. People figured out how to beat it, and they changed the ladder experience. And I think that's all that needs to happen. I think Blizzard taking the time to evaluate Druid and evaluate the cards to possibly be nerfed or put in the Hall of Fame is important. I know there's a lot of people calling for nerfs immediately, but I don't think it's needed. Figure out how to beat Druid and just do it, because I did.
Yeah, I
But
absolutely agree.
I mean, there are three flavors of Druid right now, and obviously the biggest flavor, the one that everyone seems to have the biggest problem with, is Jade Druid. And I know there's a lot of talk, and we talked about this before the start of the show, to immediately move Innervate into Hall of Fame or to nerf it. I don't really see a way you can nerf Innervate without completely changing the way the card works. So
There's
an instant move into Hall of Fame. I don't. Does that really solve the problem? Like, here's my thing. I don't have a problem with nerfs across the board. General rule, I don't have a problem with nerfs. But if you're gonna nerf something, you need to be nerfing the root cause of something. You don't need to be nerfing. I don't want to say a side effect, but a symptom.
So
You don't want to be nerfing a symptom. You want to find the root cause of what is causing this card to be unbalanced and fix the root cause.
yeah, you don't want to have another. What was the what was the minion that gave everything under 2 charge?
Warsong Commander.
Commander.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want another Warsong Commander situation.
So Innervate has been around since the beginning. Innervate is one of these cards that I feel like is very hard to balance Druid around. So maybe it is time that Innervate goes into a Hall of Fame. I don't know if you necessarily need to do it immediately, because you've kind of set a precedent for when you were going to do Hall of Fame. But if you've got a card that is single-handedly handicapping you into bringing a class in line to where it's either making it hard for you to make the class effective, or whether everything you do makes the class too overpowered. If you've got a card that has that kind of power currently sitting in the set, I think it's a prime candidate to move over into Hall of Fame. So that way you're free to design in the class, not necessarily in a vacuum, but without that handicap of saying, well, this would be a really cool concept, and Druid, this would be a really cool card for Druid, but we can't do it because of Innervate. Or, hey, this would be a really cool neutral card. Yeah, but Druid will make that broken. You don't want those kind of cards that sort of hog tie, and that's a very southern term, but I'm doing it to be more PC than some of the other terms that I would use. But you don't want something that's going to hinder your ability to design, not only for Druid, but for all the classes. You don't want cool design to be put aside because of one card, because one card would make this break. And I just don't I don't see a way to nerf Innervate without just completely taking it off the table. You may as well just take it out.
It's been brought up on a couple other podcasts. I can't remember which ones came up with the original idea. And Matt at Arms mentioned it in chat. If Innervate was changed to refresh 2 empty mana crystals, do you think it still would be playable?
See, I don't think so.
I mean, you could still play it in aggro in a way. Instead of cheating out a 3 mana or 5 mana minion on turn 1, you could do it on turn 3 and get out a couple 1/2 costs and then refresh and maybe get a 3 cost out as well. It would give you still more. It would be more beneficial in the mid and late game than it is now, and it would be less beneficial in the first 2 or 3 turns.
I mean, it's a viable fix in the sense that it solves the problem. But at that point, there are just so many other cards out there that have an immediate and more profound impact on the game that I don't think it would ever be played.
It's fair.
So other than Innervate, the other cards that people are estimating could see nerfs are Spreading Plague, Ultimate Infestation, and of course Jade Idol. What are your thoughts on those three cards, Rasika?
I think Spreading Plague is just fine. Ultimate Infestation, it seems really powerful, but it's a 10 mana spell. So if you, once again, targeting the root cause, as long as you're casting it on 10, you're not casting anything else. To me, that seems perfectly fine. And what was your other one? It was Spreading Plague, Ultimate Infestation.
Jade Idol.
What was? Okay, so Jade Idol is, first of all, it's Mean Streets. It's going to rotate out. And it's going to rotate out before Knights of the Frozen Throne, if I've got that rotation down. I think Jade Idol is fine, especially now that Skulking Geist is in.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, here's the thing. They say that they don't want a card. They don't want you to have to play a card because it's an auto-include. But, I mean, Acidic Swamp Ooze was essential for taking out Pirate Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Skulking Geist absolutely 100% targets Jade Idol.
Oh yeah.
I think it is perfectly fine as long as you have an answer to Jade Idol. It's perfectly fine to have a card like Jade Idol. Does that mean that all the other decks out there have to designate one of their slots to contending with Jade Idol? Yeah, probably. But you know what? So has every other collectible card game since its inception.
Yes.
I don't know how many times in Magic I had to include stuff in a deck that I didn't necessarily want to play, but if I didn't put it in, I was going to get punished because there was a card or two out there that would basically run rampant over me if I didn't have this card in my deck. So,
Agreed.
I mean, for the small amount of time in the grand scheme of things that Jade Idol is going to be in, Skulking Geist takes care of it now. Just put one Skulking Geist in your deck and just, I don't want to say stop whining about it, but I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if you're going to play a collectible card game, you're going to have to realize that there are going to be powerful cards out there that are going to need a counter. Like right now, if you've got Black Knight, you should be running Black Knight because the Lich King is a boss.
So
So
I have what 17? No, 15. I have 15 out of 23 legendaries from this set. What I don't have is a single Skulking Geist.
Wow. Now, I will tell you this. Looking at statistics, whenever I was able to play Skulking Geist before turn 8 or before, I won 100% of my games against Jade Druid. Now, something I've noticed when I first started playing Skulking Geist, every time I would play it, I would get rid of 2 Jade Idols and 2 Earthen Scales. Well, Druid players are adapting to that, and they're not including Earthen Scales in the deck. But Jade Idol is so important, they have to include them. I'm even seeing people throw out Jade Idol, realizing I'm control, and their second Jade Idol, they summon a Jade instead of shuffling it because they know I've got to have Skulking Geist. So they're playing around my tech.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, when you're playing against Jade Idol and they do that, or you eliminate that card, all it's a matter of is counting your Jades at that point. If you can just count each one of those and have removal for all those Jades, and you neutralize every Jade threat, you win the game.
But and actually, Matt at Arms in chat brought up it's not just good for Jade Idol. There are other one casting cost spells out there that it's actually beneficial in having Skulking Geist in your deck to begin with. Cold Blood
Priest
comes to mind right away. You know,
Yep.
Evolve.
Yep.
Um,
Priest has a plethora. The Velen,
I mean,
the
Lightning
new
Bolt.
Velen, the
I know
Velen
that-
combo Priest has a lot of 1-drops and
Yeah.
1-drop spells, and it eliminates all those threats as well.
It gets rid of Whirlwind. So there's a Gramash activator gone.
Yep.
And I know that's an older combo, but Gramash always seems to make a comeback. I think there's beneficial one casting cost spells in almost all of the decks that you'll play at some point. So I think running Skulking Geist isn't necessarily a bad thing, and including one of, yes, it takes away one deck spot, but I don't think in the end it's going to be such a big problem. Now, going back to the root cause, once again, it's Innervate. Yeah, I think if you go ahead and move Innervate into Hall of Fame, when the set rotates around, then I think you solve that problem. You could make a precedence to evaluate cards every 6 months. Now, this is the first time, this is the first cycle through Hall of Fame. You could make a precedence to evaluate cards every 6 months, or have like a Hall of Fame class, and then as you introduce the new sets, you could have like another reevaluation, maybe something you didn't think about, and maybe have one or two cards that move in, at that point. I don't think that's beyond the realm of question. Do I think it's an emergency? I don't think it's an emergency, but at the same time, I think there are valid points in moving Innervate up if you find that it is dictating the way Druid plays. Because once again, you don't want to be hampered by design, but you also don't want to have something in there that's so good that people refuse to play without it.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to see any major changes in the next month because you have Last Call HCT coming up and all the tournaments leading up to, to and through Last Call to get ready for the World Championships. And of course, you got BlizzCon. That while they're not going to have the World Championships there, there's probably going to be some tournaments there, possibly a portion of Last Call. I know they're doing part of the Tavern versus Tavern tournaments there and whatnot. So they're not going to want to put this huge wrench right in the middle of competition. They've usually made a precedence in the past. They nerf right before like a month and a half before to give people time to prepare, or they do it after all the tournament time. So if you do see a nerf, it's probably going to be just before the next set, which will be after BlizzCon.
Yeah. Okay. And once again, I don't think nerfing Innervate is going to help it. You're going to kill Innervate if you nerf it. So you may as well just go ahead and move it over into Hall of Fame and leave it as is. And I mean, there's tools to deal with it in Wild. So while it's still going to be a problem in Wild, I feel like just the Goblins versus Gnomes expansion alone helps you with speed enough to compete with Jade Druid.
Gotcha. Okay.
I agree.
Well, that brings us to our next topic, which is the Hearthstone Global Games Finals. We talked last week. Versika gave you his choose your champion picks, and most of us had already picked the United States, who we were repping, and U.S. played well. They went the length of it. I think they were the only match to go all seven. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But in a great set of games, Czech Republic came up and defeated the United States 4-3.
More importantly, Stancifka defeated Amnesiac in Game 7. And Amnesiac in current Amnesiac form storms off the stage like he's angry. Of course, that's his persona. He is playing that kind of up a little bit, and I think it was admitted in a few interviews and articles that was more just for the fans. I think this was a great tournament. USA did very good, but Stancifka and Czech Cloud they knew what to do. And what was really interesting is the Czech Republic is known for bringing off-meta decks and weird techs, and USA said, you know what, we're going to punish them if they do that. They didn't do that. They brought straight meta decks and beat USA at their own game, which I have to respect them for that.
Yeah.
So I don't toot my own horn very often, but last week, if you recall, I said watch Stancifka. There's no other player that I would rather have at the beginning of a meta, the beginning of a set, than Stancifka, and I think that he proved that he is that good at the beginning. I think he faced as he gets as a meta gets more concrete towards the end. But I think in those beginning stages of metas, I think he's probably one of the top 3 players in the world at the beginning of the meta.
I will say this: I mentioned that Czech Republic played meta decks, and there wasn't any real Stancifka techs, as I like to call them. But that being said, there were a lot of plays that were non-meta style plays.
Yeah.
And Stan Cifka not only knows how to put in interesting tech and cards that aren't normally played together, he's really good at taking existing meta and playing it in a way that catches your opponent off guard. And I think that's how he beat the United States.
He's like a much better Hearthstone version of me.
Yes.
There you go. All right, so the next semifinal match was Ukraine versus South Korea. And if you guys listened last week, we talked about how good we thought Ukraine was. Ukraine came out and defeated South Korea in 6 games, taking the set 4-2. Zerotio, what were your thoughts on this match?
Kalento is like a stone sculpture. He is just not rocked, whether he is behind or he is, ahead. And him and Dr. Hippie both, you just didn't see any expression on their face. They had the same expression when they were behind as when they were ahead, as when they were losing, as when they were winning. And that takes a lot of discipline. As somebody who's competed in major before and on side tournaments, my emotions get the best of me sometimes. Games that I'm losing, I end up continuing to lose because I get in my own head. There were a lot of times South Korea was way ahead in their games, and they just kept on the track. Kalento and Dr. Hippie, you could see them both talking, and the rest of the team kind of conversing behind them. I really liked the production where you could see the players behind the player that was driving, and they just kept the course. And then they were like, well, there's no way they can win this. There's no way they can win this. And then they just stick to their guns. They get the right draws. They play to their outs, and they found a way to win. And I knew Ukraine was likely going to be in the finals. I'd hoped USA would beat Czech Republic, but, I saw Ukraine and Czech Republic go into the finals, and I thought, well, Ukraine's got this in the bag. And you're muted, Avantis.
Yeah, that happens. All right, and Rasika, did you get a chance to watch that match?
I did, and much like Zerotio said, one of the things that impressed me the most was that they knew how they wanted to. Ukraine knew how they wanted to win. They knew what they needed to do to win, and so they did something that I really like to do, and it's something that I pride myself on, and that is they not only played their game, they played their deck against their opponent's deck, but they played their opponents. They knew the people they were playing against. They knew what their tendencies were. They purposely pulled them into situations where they knew what they were going to play. And if you will notice, if go back and watch, and if you will look at them, they're not surprised by anything because they gave them one choice. All the other decisions were bad. They knew what the best decision was. They wanted to put them in a situation where Korea had one decision to make, and it made them predictable. So, Ukraine punished them for being predictable. I don't know that I saw Korea really misplay.
No.
They were more led. They really, like Zerotio said, Ukraine had its outs, and they forced Korea into playing the game that they wanted to play. And ultimately, I think that's why they lost in the finals, was that they couldn't make the Czech Republic do that.
Exactly. And moving on to the finals, Czech Republic defeats Ukraine 4-2. This I was surprised by. And you brought up a good point that I was going to bring up, where to be a really good Hearthstone player, if you can't get ahead on the board, you want to make the trades and the plays on your opponent's turn as awkward as possible. Well, against South Korea, Ukraine didn't do that. They made them obvious. They said, okay, we're going to set up these trades. You have to do this line of play, and it plays right into what our hand has and what we're going to draw. This worked well against South Korea. They tried this same tactic against Czech Republic, and Czech Republic saw it. They saw right through it. There were a lot of obvious plays that Czech Cloud stepped up real big in this match, and not just when he played, but when he was in the background. You could see him just chattering while Stancifka had his mouth full of banana, because that's what Stancifka does. He eats bananas all day long. Czech Cloud was just chattering. You could see him going, and he obviously was the number one to Stancifka. Stancifka built the deck. Stancifka gave him the offline plays, but when it came to the regular plays, Czech Cloud was the captain, and he really did really well. I was very pleasantly surprised by Czech Cloud stepping up, and it was the missing piece that Czech Republic had in all the previous rounds, that they obviously made it to the Final Four. But it was that missing piece. People thought, well, they're not going to win it all because they're missing that meta-style play, somebody who drives those plays. And Czech Cloud really just filled that seat, and that's why they won, in my opinion. Czech Cloud stepped up and was an A-plus player.
And that's really what they were missing all along, was they needed him to step up. Because up until this point, I felt like he was the weak link. And then when he came online, and when he got in sync with the rest of his team, I felt like that unit gelled together in a way that none of the other teams did. And that's because I feel like they gelled intellectually, but I also felt like they gelled in an almost instinctual kind of way. Like they all had the same basic instincts when it came to plays. I mean, you didn't see them disagreeing much. And so I think you get to a certain place where you understand what your team wants to do. You understand what your decks are meant to do. And each deck is being played with 4 people thinking as one, rather than one person trying to think like the other 3 teammates.
Yeah, so, and that was something I wanted to point out. Against the United States, you saw a lot of this. Czech Cloud would talk, and you could see his mouth moving. Then he would look over at Stancifka, and Stancifka was eating a banana, and he would just nod and give a thumbs up, basically confirming that, yes, that's the right line. You take this. But against Ukraine, you didn't see Czech Cloud look over and check with Stancifka anymore. He had confidence. He knew what needed to be done. You see his mouth go, and they would just do it. And at that point, Stancifka, while he was still talking, it wasn't like he was asking permission to drive at that point. Czech Cloud stepped up and said, you have faith in me. We're going to take this. And he did. And I think while Stancifka obviously drives that team for the most part, especially in deck building, Czech Cloud, he had his hands on the steering wheel and steered him right into a victory.
Well, look at it this way. It's Stancifka was the heart and the brains behind the team. But you have to have everything working in conjunction. So you had the air, you had the lungs, you needed somebody with the drive to get it there. So you needed the fuel. And when Czech Cloud came online, he provided the fuel that took them to that next level. So, that last match, you saw Stancifka kind of step back and allow his team to be the team that they were. And that's what a good leader does. That's what a good captain does, is you prepare your team, and when the game is on the line, you don't necessarily want the ball. You don't necessarily want to be the one that has to win the game. You want anyone to be able to do it. And if you've done your job as a leader, and you've done your job as a coach, and you've done your job as a captain, it doesn't matter whose hand the ball is in. You're confident, and that's what you saw, and that's why they won.
All right.
Yep. And to quote a basketball analogy, when the winning shot is made It doesn't matter if the scorecard says score or assist. All that matters is you were involved.
Yep.
There you go. All right, so that brings us to our next topic, which we talked a little bit about last week, and that's
And we said we weren't going to talk about it again.
We said we weren't going to talk about it anymore, but there's been an update we need to bring up, and that's the WESG 2017 Hearthstone Tournament. They announced late last week, I guess, right going into the weekend, that they are going to allow men and women into the main events regardless. Women can sign up. Now, there will still be a women's division, but the women have to choose, do they want to play in the main event or do they want to play in the women's division? They can only compete in one open qualifier.
And they even clarified that in a separate blog post, that the reason there has to be a choice is not because of segregation. It's specifically because of ISO for the Olympics. Is it
Yes.
ICO? And the Olympic Committee, they're trying to follow the guidelines for esports to become a recognized sports by the Olympics. And because of that, there's a lot of events that have to be done simultaneously, and scheduling does not allow to have a tandem event where one player can be in two different divisions. So the female player has to declare whether they want to be in the main event or in the women's division. Now, the prize pool hasn't changed, but you can choose which prize pool you want to compete for, which I think is the right choice. Now, because of this statement and the change, various media groups that were going to boycott the event have started to reverse their stance on the issue, including our sister podcast friends of the show, Coin Concede. They pretty much made a declaration on there that people can stand down, that they're satisfied with this decision. And it brings a question to us, is this enough?
I mean,
guys,
go ahead, Avantes.
So, I said last week that, as long as, there was no place in for segregation in Hearthstone, and that as long as this stood, we were not going to cover it. We were not going to cover any of the tournament. And they've made the changes to allow men and women to compete in the same event. So, I think that was the right thing. Now, should this have ever been a thing? No. I mean, I get that they're trying to conform to Olympic standards.
Exactly.
And the Olympics have men's divisions and women's divisions, but esports is not traditional sports. I think that you have to look at it that way and realize that men and women compete together on the same level, at the same at the same intensity, and therefore they should be competing together. I don't think there should be a men's division and a women's division in esports. Women are just as capable and just as skilled as men are when it comes to that. And I think by them opening the door for them to play in the main event, that's good. And we'll see. We'll see. We may end up covering the Hearthstone event after all. Versika, what are your thoughts?
We have quick to clarify, just before Versika gets into his point, and we have this in the show notes. They have a little clarification on fostering gender equality to try to prepare for Olympic Agenda 2020, and there's 2 points. The IOC to work with the International Federation to achieve 50% women participation in the Olympic Games to stimulate women's participation and involvement in sport by creating more participation opportunities at the Olympic Games. And 2, the IOC to encourage the inclusion of mixed gender team events. Now, I think they pointed out that this was a little short-sighted in them streamlining, trying to get the Olympic Committee approval. And I don't think at any time where they are trying to have segregation. They were just trying to have a separate event to try to draw in more female participation.
Okay, so that's actually one of the first things that I wanted to bring up.
That's why I wanted to mention it first.
Thanks. Wait, steal my thunder. No, you should have been upfront with that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like from the get-go, you should have been like, we want to try to get into the Olympics. That's why we are going to have a men's, women, and a men's division and a women's division right off the bat. Like that is how it should have been presented. But I'm going to say something that's going to be super unpopular, so I apologize right off the bat. As a former athlete and as a former Olympic hopeful, I don't think esports has any business being in the Olympics. I don't. Esports is its own thing. Collegiate sports, absolutely. Have that opportunity for people to get to go to college playing what they want. And I love watching Heroes of the Dorm, and I love watching the TESPA events. But the Olympics is about a combination of mind, body, and spirit. It's pushing yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally to the brink and doing it against the best in the world. And you get to do that every 4 years. Any country can compete in the Olympics because you can run anywhere, you can jump anywhere, you can swim anywhere. Your facilities may not be cutting edge, but you can still train for them there. So even if you can make an argument that it's time to include electronic assisted activities in the Olympics, you still have a lot of the world that just simply wouldn't be able to compete.
That's true.
And until we bridge that technology gap, the Olympics has always been open to everyone. And if to me, you should not include an event every country in the world can't put an athlete in. And even then, I mean, look, I'm a video game nerd, all right? But video game nerds are not athletes. We're esports enthusiasts, and we're esports participants, and we're esports competitors. You can be a competitor, but that's not the same as being an athlete.
That being stated, do you think a better avenue would maybe be the X Games, which is considered a celebration of alternative sports?
See, I think X Games is just fun, but why not have your own esports Olympics? It doesn't have to be included with the Olympics. This whole theory of just because it exists, it needs to be lumped in with everything else is just not. It's not feasible. It's just not practical. So, instead of bending the rules of these things that have been around for forever, go out and blaze your own trail. Go out and do something amazing, and start something amazing.
Yeah.
Don't jump on the backs of something else.
Yeah.
Make your own start. Get out there and do your own thing.
I think Matt at Arms in chat has it. He says if you're going to add anything, chess and poker probably have rights to be included long before you include esports. So.
Yeah, and Ducharme mentions in chat he disagrees because there are many sports that many countries don't participate in because of their locations. Now, South Africa had a bobsled team because they had the capability to build a simulation and practice that, because a lot of it's just knowing the specs of the sled and muscle memory. Whether they're in cold climate or warm climate, it really didn't matter. You couldn't do that with something like esports or Hearthstone because maybe your country doesn't have access to internet or games, or that game isn't released in your country.
You're region locked.
To me, that's a little different than other sports that aren't easily accessible. Even if it's not easily accessible, it's accessible. Like Versika said, everybody can run. Everybody can hit a rock with a racket to practice whatever you have to do to practice. But with esports, that's not always because of your world. Even your third world countries can compete in the Olympics if they have somebody there that can get the funding and backing and practice time in.
I've trained in the martial arts in 4 different countries, the United States by far was the most technologically advanced. But even when I was in South Africa, the dojo that I was in didn't even have power. But they still trained, and they still trained just as hard as we did. So it was there. They could still do it. But I mean, do you see where I'm getting at?
Oh, I do.
As far as that
Yeah.
goes.
And
The
this
Olympics is also, once again,
yeah.
it's three things.
This is
It's
go ahead.
physical, mental, and emotional.
Yeah.
So
And this is probably a topic we need to touch on again.
Oh yeah, we definitely will.
So anyway, this week's Tavern Brawl is Blood Magic. How much are you willing to sacrifice for power? All of your spells will cost health instead of mana this week. So go out there, get your pack, and have some fun.
And just real quick on this, the difference between this Tavern Brawl and past Tavern Brawls is this is standard only. And
okay.
It's stated in there, it's Blood Magic standard. So you can only put standard cards in, which is not something they've customarily done with Tavern Brawls in the
Right.
past.
I cheated.
So that's kind of neat. I won on turn one. My first game. I tweeted about it. So follow me on Twitter at Zerotio, and you can see that wonderful screenshot.
Wow. I didn't cheat that bad. I used Shadow Blade.
I cheat. Oh, Shadow, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So this week's deck is actually the deck that Zerotio used to get Legend this month. So I'm going to run down the deck list, and then I'll let him talk about it a little bit before we switch over to the play portion and give it a shot. So the deck list is 2 Arcanologists, 2 Doomsayers, 2 Frostbolts, 2 Primordial Glyphs, 2 Arcane Intellect, 2 Frost Nova, 2 Ice Barrier, 1 Ice Block, 2 Volcanic Potion, 2 Polymorph, Elise the Trailblazer, 2 Blizzard, 2 Meteor, 1 Skulking Geist, Baron Geddon, 1 Flame Strike, and then the Trinity out of Legends out of this set: Syndragosa, the Lich King, and Frost Lich Jaina. So, Zerotio, give us the rundown.
You'll notice this deck is pretty much 80% removal. And a lot of that is because it's designed to handle board flood and big threats at the same time. This was originally a Savitz list that I kind of cannibalized. He had valets in here which were good spot removal early game, but I felt the board was getting flooded quickly by shamans and aggro druids and paladins and pirate warriors. So I traded that out for volcanic potions. I also doubled up the polymorph. It had 2 ice blocks and 1 ice barrier, and this is the most common question I get when people see this list. Why only 1 ice block and why 2 ice barriers? And the reason is, with this deck, with it being so heavy in removal and it having such a strong late game with generating water elementals all the time, if you have to ice block twice, you've already lost the game. There's really no huge comeback mechanic other than the Baron Geddon. And in a lot of cases, it's not enough. So I used the 1 ice block and the 2 ice barriers, because with 2 ice barriers and Frost Lich Jaina, that's 21 points of armor, which you really need to stay in the game long enough to get Frost Lich Jaina rolling. Once you get her rolling, pretty much all they can do is keep trying to keep you from generating water elementals. And at that point, they're not trying to win the game. They're trying not to lose the game. And just pinging them in the face every turn can eventually win you the game that way. It is a deck for a very patient person. And I took my time and didn't drink too much caffeine this weekend, so I would be a little less angsty. But it's a fun deck, but we may not get our full games in tonight because most games go to fatigue.
Okay, awesome. Well, then let's jump on over there and get to it. So, guys, if you are joining us on Twitch or YouTube live, stay tuned as we move into the live play portion of our show. If you are listening via our audio podcast, we'd like to thank you for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at HeroPower_cast. You can find all of our past episodes on YouTube at youtube.com/ECMMOgamers or on our website at heropowerhs.com. If you enjoy the show, you would like to help to support and improve it, you can do that by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/heropower. And we'll see you again next week.
And don't forget to use your hero power on YouTube. Rick loves it when I ad lib.
So, while we're getting this set up, whichever one of you wants to tell us a little more about our good friends over at Viforce.
Well, I was talking in the audio portion about the element, and we were actually really honored when Viforce came to us and said, hey, we're going to make a computer that was inspired by your show. We want to make a computer for the entry-level gamer that is just coming into PC gaming for the first time, and we want to make it cost-effective, and we want to give them, you know, a good bang for their buck. But more than anything, they wanted a computer that could just, for the most part, make sure that people could play Hearthstone and stream it out. And this was something that when I found out about it, I loved it. So it's only $450, which is a great starting point for a beginning gaming PC. It's got a 3.1 gigahertz quad core processor, Radeon R7 series video card, 4 gigs of RAM, a terabyte hard drive, and Windows 10. It's like I said, it's a great starter PC. It'll play League of Legends, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, and it'll even play World of Warcraft Legion. So most of the Blizzard games minus Overwatch. And you know, if you're just getting into computer gaming, it's a great place to start. So once again, that's ViForceGaming.com. Go to the product page and check out the element inspired by Hero Power.
All right. So whenever you are ready, Zerotio, once you have found an opponent,
I'm looking for one now.
Worthy of your rank 5,000 legendness.
Yeah, I am 5100 legend, which seems really to me that means I'm just over top 5100 in all of Hearthstone. So that makes me happy for at least for North America. But I saw today somebody was actually 12,000 legend, so I'm not doing too bad.
Nice.
So, all right. So we're against Warrior. We have to assume it's probably Pirate Warrior. We have the coin, so holding on to Ice Barrier, one Ice Barrier may be good. The rest of this is rather clunky. The Elise, the Lich King, and the Ice Barrier. We don't have any. The other Ice Barrier. We don't have any like must keeps for Pirate Warrior. We do want to try to make sure to get Volcanic Potion as early as possible, though. It's probably Volcanic Potion and Doomsayer is probably your closest must keeps. But we're just going to keep one Ice Barrier here.
Okay.
And this is a tough matchup because if they get the nuts and you don't get your early removal, then you're just too far behind.
All right. So we've got Cinder Ghost, a Volcanic Potion, Blizzard Ice Barrier, and the coin.
He has Pirate, Patches the Pirate in the hand.
Feels bad.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man.
We're gonna pass and see if he can develop anything else.
Okay.
We don't really need to like push a coin with
No.
him having Patches in the hand. Now, if he had N'Zoth's first mate, we might consider it. But
Yeah.
this guy sucks. He drew Patches. Yeah, Matt at Arms in chat. Yeah. What now? I drew Patches. Okay, so he just has Fire Orax, and he's choosing not to go face because he probably assumes we're secret mage.
Yep.
Which means we could pretty much just slow roll this and ping down Patches. Really don't need to push removal or even ice barrier that early. One thing that you have to try to do though is make sure you get your ice barriers in positions that they will get activated, because dying with an ice barrier on the board really feels bad. So Ice Barrier next turn is basically just 1 point of healing. He's really drawing really bad. And we could probably bait him into good removal.
Okay.
We can Volcanic Potion into Coin Ping next turn.
I think you can get more value out of it, but
Well, that's why I'm saying we don't want to do it this turn. If he, we could get more out of it next turn.
what about
He's
just
only-
Arcane?
He's only got 2 cards in his hand too.
Yeah. I like the Arcane Intellect here.
That'll put us at 9 cards.
Yep. Oh, that's fine. We got the coin. We can ditch one pretty easily. Another Arcane Intellect, another Volcanic Potion, which is good because that might actually... If he puts out anything with 2 health or less, or multiple minions out, 2 health or less, that's not too good.
Yeah, I'm with Matt at Arms. Save the coin for Blizzard next turn.
That's what I was thinking.
I think you pretty much have to Ice Barrier here.
Yeah,
right?
I think the Ice Barrier here sets us up for a Blizzard next turn. I mean, we could get rid of one of the threats now, but it really doesn't matter. It equates to about the same amount of damage, an extra 7 points of damage. Oh, that's so good. So this is going to stall up. The Blizzard's going to set up for 2 turns of Volcanic Potions. Pretty much you have to just get stalled out enough that he's out of threats and you can start healing up with Jaina. So coin Blizzard, obvious play?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think you have a choice.
Yeah, not really. Now we really need to draw into a Frostbolt. Because taking 8 from Bittertide Hydra is not really something we want to do.
Right.
Like I said, Pyre Warrior is a tough matchup. We didn't get into our ice block at all.
What about polymorphing?
No, because then you're
Gonna have to be there.
you're just dead to frothing.
We have to
That's true.
Arcane Intellect into ice block.
No.
That's our only out.
Okay.
Yep.
Glyph in the ice block. Yeah, we're dead.
Yep.
Yeah. So freeze his face. Say thank you.
Concede.
And when I was getting legend, the worst win rate I had was against them. If they can just get the curve fast enough, it's hard to stabilize.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because I haven't seen a lot of Pirate Warriors since I got legend. And I haven't seen a lot of Druid at all since I got legend. And this is the first time that one of the 3 main hosts have played on the Legend ladder on the show. This is a milestone because last time I got it, I got the very last minute of the month. Ooh, the Dinks. You might be his final boss.
You are possibly his gatekeeper to legend.
Yep, possibly. So Frostbolt's a keep here. The game's gonna. You really want to aggressively mulligan for Skulking Geist, and honestly, the Frostbolt may not even be needed that early. We could probably draw into it.
I think I'm going to pitch it all back, right?
Yeah, really, we want to aggressively mulligan for Skulking Geist.
Mm.
A little heavy-handed. The Doomsayer is going to be useful.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people like to throw the Doomsayer out preemptively. It really depends on how he opens out, but a lot of times I will save it until I see one minion come out. Like I'm probably not going to do it now.
Just ping his face.
I'm just going to ping his face and make him think I don't have that turn 2 Doomsayer. He might throw down, if it's aggro, he might throw a couple minions down. He might start his ramp train.
Yep. Innervate.
Oh,
Crypt Lord.
this is such a good Doomsayer turn because that 1/6 is very important to him to guard his smaller minions for aggro druid.
Okay.
So we're going to Doomsayer here. He has to come up with an additional 4 damage off 3 mana or 3 damage off 1 mana. He's already used 1 Innervate. He does have his coin, so he has 4 mana available. He could swipe if he runs swipe in there. Doesn't. Wrath?
It's got to be Wrath.
Oh, Power of the Wild, which is a little worse for us, but it's fine.
Polymorph the 3/9 or the 3/3.
Well, I think if we polymorph the 3/9.
So hold on a second.
But I don't know if we polymorph. We might just put out Doomsayer for to absorb some damage.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Why not just put out Doomsayer as basically a taunt?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Doomsayer out and then ping the Direwolf Alpha.
Yeah.
Because we have Meteor, we have Polymorph if it gets nasty,
Okay.
and we have Blizzard here in 2 turns. So yeah. Because this essentially is almost an ice block. It's going to absorb 7 points of damage. So it's like playing an ice block.
Like playing Ice Barrier.
That's what I meant. Ice barrier. Sorry. In taunt. Okay. The only reason I didn't love that play is we don't have a great turn 5 play. It's probably going to end up being a polymorph. Oh well, we can draw with AI. What do you think of our Arcane Intellect here?
I like that better than Polymorph.
Yeah, me
it's
too.
11 points on the damage on the board, so
That's fine. We're gonna negate a lot of that starting next turn with Blizzard and the Meteor. So we'll Arcane Intellect. We can get a Primordial Glyph. There's Jaina.
ping the 4/3.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Ping and the 4/3 are good. It'll line things up for a decent Meteor. This telegraphs that we have Blizzard.
Right.
He's been around long enough. He knows that we've got Blizzard.
Ooh, is that lethal? No, 10, 19, 22.
22, yeah.
Brutal, though.
It is. It is definitely brutal. So Blizzard.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I have had a little less luck with this since I got to Legend Ladder. I don't know if that says anything. And see, this lines up. If he doesn't proper Meteor place, then he would line up. Well, second Blizzard.
Blizzard?
Yep.
I think we have to.
Yep.
I mean, we're dead to swipe.
Right.
Yeah, but see, that's the big argument with Aggro Druid right now. Not a lot of them are running swipe, especially the ones that are running the Crypt Lord and Bittertide Hydra. They're just not running.
Be nice to top deck that 1 Flame Strike right now. Although it really wouldn't save us. Volcanic Potion into Polymorph, though.
Doesn't save us. I think we need to.
Yeah, you're right.
I think we need a Primordial Glyph first.
Yep.
Look for an out.
Like a Blizzard?
Second Blizzard.
Third Blizzard.
We died to a lot of things, though.
Yeah.
Is there?
The math didn't line up for Ice Barrier. We're still been dead.
Right.
Ping.
Is there some? Ping the Hydra.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ping the Hydras. That sets up for Meteor. We will need to get an Ice Barrier in probably next turn. Good Meteor placement.
Yep.
Not dead. So we can. Do we want to? Oh, that's the question. I think we meteor the Hydra to ensure the fledgling dies,
I agree.
and then we Ice Barrier.
Barrier.
Yeah, I like that.
And then Jane is probably going to come down next turn and start pushing us out of lethal range. Because we'll get 8 health from this, putting us at 9. We'll take probably 3 at 6. Jane will put us back up to 11.
Ooh.
That's no bueno.
No.
We might have 2 volcanic potions instead. Polymorph volcanic potion.
Yeah.
But we're still dead to hero power.
No, not with
Ice Barrier.
not with Ice Barrier.
I'm talking about next turn.
No, we're not. We're at 7. We're at 6.
Oh yeah, you're right. Never mind.
Is there?
I was thinking ice block.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Is there any merit
The Frost Nova?
to Frost Nova into Elise?
Mm.
I think it does the same thing. The
But it
benefit
keeps
of
him
doing
from-
that, it keeps him from doing anything.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It gives us a turn where he is stuck at 3 mana.
But then it delays our Jaina turn by 1 more turn still.
It does,
But,
but it gives us something to fight back on the board with if he plays something else.
at this point, we're not really fighting back on the board. We need a Jaina next turn, and then
Start
Baron
building our
Geddon to
health
start pulling
back
ourselves out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a good line. I like it, but I think in our current situation, that just delays us by a turn. I would have loved a Frostbolt to hit his face, but 6 points of damage with 1 card, 2 cards in hand now, I don't think he can do it. Second living mana. Now we Frost. Hmm. Okay, so if we Baron Geddon, we put ourselves
At 3.
at 3, and next turn we can Frostless Jaina to heal.
Correct.
If he doesn't draw swipe.
Correct.
I don't think you run swipe, but you know
I think
There are other
I think that's your only line here.
we died to Savage Roar. We died to quite a few things actually.
Yep.
But I think that is our best. I think we Arcane Intellect first. So we'll have the mana for it. I don't think we Arcanology. We could get Ice Barrier, and that would just lose us the game.
Yeah.
So he just has to find 2 points of damage, which he can do.
Not with that.
That's not 2 points of damage. That's not 2 points of damage.
Nope. And that's not 2 points of damage.
And that gives us more healing,
So
actually.
now we Frost Lich, attack with Baron Geddon, and heal for 7.
Yep. This is how some of these games get.
We're back
year.
in this.
Oh, yeah, we're back. And actually, I think this wins us the game right here. Because we're going to heal for 7. And then we're going to take 2 and heal for another 6. Heal for another 8, so we heal for 6. There you go. I don't know how many games I won at like 1 health. That's how the deck should work. It's tight. but it works.
All
We
right,
gonna do one?
We got 9 minutes. Let's get one more. These
9
games were
minutes.
going a little faster than anticipated because they are
Yep.
aggro.
Yep. And this deck does well against all forms of Druid, from my experience, except for the big easy Druid easy. So Volcanic Potion's really good in the matchup against Hunter.
I'm just confused that I'm seeing a hunter.
I'm not. I've seen quite a
It's
few. I don't
Legend
think I've-
ladder.
Yeah.
SSJ Goku?
Yep.
It says J Goku. Yeah. I'm gonna keep Volcanic Potion because I like it against the early. Oh, Frostbolt's good too, and Ice Barrier's got we got a pretty good opener for Hunter.
Into Meteor. Yep.
Meteor will help, later if they get a running Hyena. It gets up there in health. This deck does take a lot of patience.
Mad at Arms with the SM Orc. Then
Yeah.
realizing still not Twitch. Feels bad, man.
This is no one drop for Hunter. There is a variation of this control-y style Hunter that's very reactive. And since we're not a deck that's active, we could probably even draw him in fatigue. If that's the case.
Unless he starts just pumping out zombeasts like crazy.
So if we Ice Barrier now, we get a decent value off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we can clear Misha next turn. Or Misha.
Leok.
You like that line?
Sure.
Because I don't really know what we're playing. I don't want a Primordial Glyph because
Right.
I don't know what to look for yet.
Primordial Glyph is not the correct play there.
Yeah. This is possibly that Build-A-Beast list that has very few actual minions because it's designed to look for specific minions through the game and then rely on the Build-A-Beast late game.
Bear Shark.
Bear Shark is annoying.
I like Bear Shark.
Yeah, he's extremely annoying though. You can't follow up with a ping or anything.
Right.
I mean, in 2 turns, it's not going to matter. So once again,
No.
you've got the 6 armor. Do you
I think
need
we Primordial Glyph here.
Do we?
I like to look for another Blizzard.
Okay.
Possibly a Flame Strike. Flame Strike would be great going into 5. So let's Primordial Glyph first. Like the Blizzard.
Okay.
Yep. We need board clear.
We need AoE damage is
Yeah.
what you're looking for. Not targetable damage.
So do we Frostbolt Leok's the question.
I don't think so.
Ping Leok?
Sure.
Because we got to be able to try to eliminate him in the next turn or so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, why are we not dropping a meteor on his face here in a little bit to get rid of Bear Shark?
We are now.
We probably are now. The problem is that's a 2-turn play.
Yeah.
We're gonna Blizzard this.
Oh, Real Blizzard this turn. Ping would have probably been better to get rid of the face.
Yeah, I can understand that line.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
I mean, we're
focus less
definitely
on face
blizzarding
damage.
here, right?
Yeah, we're definitely Blizzarding here. I don't see any other line. And then next turn is a decision of either Meteor or Volcanic Potion, depending on what he puts on the board. Because we
A
can live off
different set.
just Volcanic Potion. And the
Yeah.
ping actually puts us in position to Volcanic Potion next turn.
Exactly.
Because he would have been a 4/4 instead of a 4/3. That's my way of saying I was right. I didn't realize it at the time. I'm not as I don't have the hindsight that Versika has, but I realize it now.
It's not hindsight if you're Versika. It's foresight.
Yes, he's a Time Lord. He's a Time Lord. It's decided. He's got his own TARDIS. Ooh. That's annoying.
I think we.
Do we have to frostbolt that to kill it and leave Leok up? So volcanic potion and frostbolt the Stampede Dakota? Or the Tundra Rhino, I mean?
If you do that, we're going to take 6 to the face from Savannah Hame.
If we don't kill Tundra Rhinos.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like Tundra Rhino into volcanic. Or I like Frostbolt into volcanic potion into taking 4 to the face from Leok
Yes.
rather than the 6 to the face.
That was my line as well.
Yes.
That was can't fit in a ping, but we can always ping it next turn.
Right.
Yeah.
We got Meteor if he finds a way to buff it. We got options.
Worst case scenario, we polymorph it.
Mhm.
Worst case, yeah.
There's that Hame.
There's our polymorph target.
Yeah.
So ping
Ping into
Leok, polymorph the Jaime.
Yep.
into Arcanologist. Oh wait, we won't have enough mana.
We don't have enough mana.
One off,
Yeah, we won't have it. I mean, it's still a beast, so you can do things with it, but it's not terrible. There's a meteor target. So
Meteor into Doomsayer.
that's what I was thinking. I mean, he'll have 4 damage on the board to trade into Doomsayer, but if he trades in, we're setting up for Flame Strike the next turn.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rasika?
Is there a way he can kill us? I don't think there is.
I don't think so. That's 4 on the board. 6
If
with
he had, let's just
power.
assume he had double kill command in hand.
That's
that
only
would be
that's only
14.
16.
Yeah.
16 with hero
16
power.
with hero power. Yeah.
They'll have the mana for it at that point.
Yeah.
Doomsayer though, right? Not Arcanologist,
Yeah, Doomsayer.
because it'll absorb the most damage if he can clear it.
Right.
Right.
Which it will probably
if he
take.
decides to clear it.
Yeah. Eagle Horn Bow.
Which he
3,
will.
5, 6, 7, that's
Looks like he's going to.
enough. And if he works on the board, that's that's annoying. It's not terrible.
He's going to be very disappointed.
Poisonous.
Oh, poisonous. Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna be disappointed off this flame. It's gonna leave him 2 1/1s, but they're not beasts. That's one thing to note.
He's going to leave him 1/1/1 because we'll ping 1.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is very true. If he didn't have the weapon equip, I would consider Arcanologist, but the Arcanologist just eats up the weapon charge. That's all it
Right.
does.
We can drop Cinder Ghost or something next turn, depending on what he does.
It's probably going to be an Arcanologist into a double
Secret.
secret turn.
I think we probably need to consider ice blocking.
Yeah. Arcanologist and Ice Block and Ice Barrier, because we'll guarantee to get an Ice Barrier.
That's a lot of damage fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Question is, can he pop our barrier? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll be at 12.
12, yeah.
We can get. The question is it better to ping off the 2/1 or to ice barrier? Wait, can we do it all? No, we can do it all.
Yeah.
Never mind. So it takes 2 more points off the board. Really want to get into Frost Lich Jaina in the next 2 turns.
Yep.
We really have to. So he can pop us without activate barrier if he has spell damage,
12.
but he doesn't.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to pop our block at 2. No,
4.
at 4.
Yep. We need to draw.
That. We needed to draw that.
Yep.
That doesn't help us though.
It clears the board.
Yeah, but he's got 5 with hero powered weapon.
Yeah, that's true.
We needed was a primordial glyph for a frostbolt, as well as the meteor. We don't have another secret, unfortunately. So he wins.
Yep.
Didn't draw Frostlich Jaina, and that tends to be the one thing that makes it going up with Claire. Tends to be the one thing that's
Matt at Arms said, if only you had a spell that gave you 2 free mana crystals. Oh, wait.
what? What did he just do?
He wants to take us out with Dread.
Spared you?
I don't think
It matters, but
it doesn't. I mean, we can clear the dread. I mean, I'm just gonna do it to do it, but he still has us.
yeah.
Is he BMing us on purpose? Because if he decides to play with us again, okay, he's gonna finish us.
I don't think
No?
so. I think he's going to take us down to 2.
If he does that,
Heal Dread. What?
Yep.
oh my gosh. What? Okay, so we can send Dragosa and clear dread.
Yep.
Yeah. Wait. But
We send Dragosa, then ping dread and get ourselves an elemental. Then we start healing again.
okay.
I mean, we shouldn't win this because he shouldn't have been playing with us. I don't understand why he throw pitted. I mean, it's not even like he has a kill command in hand. He had an empty hand. So now he lost the game.
I don't think he was maybe trying to win the game. Just kill him.
Well, I have heard stories recently of people just playing with other people on the board because they think they're guaranteed win.
Send a thank you, according to Matt at Arms.
Thank you. Doom Pact. It's a horror. That's like the worst of the Death Knight cards, at least for this deck. Played. You just beat him, I guess.
Yeah.
Should have saved Lich King for last. The end has come. Okay.
Maybe a fan of the show.
Maybe if he's in chat, dude. Send me a friend request. I'll accept it. I'll be your Huckleberry.
All right, guys. Oh.
I'll be. Did I just say I'll be your Huckleberry live on the show? Oh
Yes,
You
yes,
did.
All right, guys. And with that, that's going to do it. If you have any questions or comments about the show or the deck, please email us at heropowerpodcast@gmail.com. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't done so already. And if Twitch ever comes back up, give us a follow there too. And for more details on how to help improve and support the show, you can find all of that information at patreon.com/heropower. Until next week, good gaming.
It's a Doc Holliday reference, by the way.
I hope they all know that.
I hope
I'm
so.
sure they've seen Tombstone.
Who hasn't?
Val Kilmer's best role ever.
Should have won an Oscar for.
Yep.